welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica and I appreciate you being here. Today we're going to be talking about A Night in the Lonesome October by Roger Zelazny. This is a book that's on my Halloween TBR. I definitely like to do a little mood and seasonal reading, so I'm always on the lookout for some good spooky books that I can add to my Halloween reading list. I have to say this is probably the most Halloween feeling book that I've ever read. I have been trying to think of a way that I could talk about this book without giving spoilers, but I don't know that there is, because part of the joy that I got out of this was going along not knowing really anything that was going to happen. I liked having to guess at who the characters were or what they were all working towards in the month of October. Like, what was this game? Like, what are we even all doing here? For me to talk about A Night in the Lonesome October, I would have to give information that in a normal book wouldn't be spoilers, but because part of the fun is going along trying to figure out what exactly is going on, then for this particular book, really anything I say, I think is gonna be a spoiler. So this is gonna be a video that's only spoilers. Before you click away, I will say if you're just looking for like a really good Halloween atmosphere book that takes place during the entire month of October and you're figuring out a very strange series of events with a very strange group of people, do yourself a favor and pick this one up. If you're looking for a Halloween book, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better one than this. This was just really fun to read, but I am going to talk about spoilers in this. So if you don't want spoilers because you haven't read it, then warning, I'm about to start talking about spoilers right now. For the rest of us, let's get down to what I really loved about this book. And in fact, I did end up really enjoying this book. It was such a fun read. I've seen it all over Reddit for the longest time being recommended as a really good book to read for Halloween. I'm glad that I chose it for this one. It was exactly what I was looking for. I loved that it was told from the perspective of Snuff. So you're being dumped into the middle of this situation. You don't get any explanation because of the really strange things, like they're in a graveyard. The dog can seemingly talk to other animals, but can also talk to Jack. And I'm like, well, is he actually a dog? Is he something else? It's kind of alluded to at one point that he used to be something else before Jack made him a watchdog. I don't know what that is. It's never explored. Left up to the imagination. I really liked that so much of this was left up to the imagination. I didn't figure out what the group was trying to do until towards the end of the book, but I really preferred it that way. I loved learning they're all playing this game that's like many centuries old, a game where they're either trying to open or close another realm to the Elder Gods. Who exactly are the Elder Gods? I don't know. Kind of sounds like some Cthulhu stuff, which it very well could be, but I love that that was left up to the imagination as well. The narration of the dog, where it obviously had like human levels of intelligence, maybe even smarter than most humans, because he's able to do like these advanced calculations for the game, like triangulating where this portal is potentially going to be opened. But then he also does dog stuff, like as he's out going around I don't know that I can call it a neighborhood, I think it was a pretty rural area, wasn't it? Going around the village, he's like marking objects to mark his territory, and he has different conversations. Like, he's very aware that he and the cat, it's weird for them to be friends. He has these very self-aware conversations with the other animals in the neighborhood. I loved seeing the animals where, like, being familiars, they had some awareness, you know, the ability to like think intelligently and critically about what was going on, but they're still maintaining their animal instincts. And I thought it was fun to see them like working together, but trying to learn to trust each other, but their animal instincts to where like, hey, we know we should be enemies, kind of came into play too. I just thought that it was fun to tell the story from the perspective of the dog and seeing the dog's interaction with like all of the other animals instead of seeing it told from one of the, I don't know, can you call them humans? One of the humans? Like, is Jack a human? I don't know. He's centuries old at least, so whatever he is, he's been around for a while. I loved that we got to see this from the perspective of the dog rather than from one of the humans that are participating in the game. And another thing that was just left up to the imagination that I loved, like the things in the cabinet, the things in the mirrors. You get the idea that they're creatures that, you know, you don't want them to escape, but like what exactly are they? We get kind of a drawing when they start to escape towards the end of the book, but the drawing doesn't really tell us anything. They're just kind of these scary looking creature things. All we know is that they were kind of an escape backup plan for Jack and Snuff if they were gonna have to like flee the area. They were gonna leave these things to take care of whatever might be happening behind them. But beyond that, it's left up to the imagination, and I thought the author did that really well with the things that he explained with the gradual reveals. I loved that the author let me self-discover so much in this story, like who the players are. You know, we had werewolf and a witch and like Dr. Frankenstein and his monster. Jack, I presume, is Jack the Ripper, which I took to the internet after I read this book, and it looks like that's the consensus. We had Sherlock Holmes and Watson. I'm sure there's so many other character references that I missed, but I'm so glad that I didn't look further into this book before I started reading, because like the realization as I was going that these are the like classic characters that I'm dealing with was part of the fun for the story, and trying to figure out through the entire month, what are we building up to? What is the game? What is this ultimate thing that's going to happen on the 31st? It doesn't sound like it's going to be anything good. What does it mean to be an opener or a closer? And like, who are the players? Why are they playing? What's the motivation? The motivations aren't really ever explored, which I also thought was fine. It just came down to, I think, some of the characters wanted the world to be different, and some of them were like, you know, I'm actually okay with things the way they are. I don't really need the elder gods to come up here in here and like change what we've got going on. And I don't know that it needs to be any deeper than that. This book, I feel, was simplistic in so many ways, but told in such a complex and fun and interesting way. It really kept my attention the whole time. I ended up reading this in just a couple of days because, I mean, not only is it short, it is a very short read, and like it's accessible the way that it's written, but I wanted to keep going every night, see what was going to happen, see what kind of new development Snuff was going to have as he's going around trying to like spy on the other players. I love that Dracula like staged his own death and showed up at the last minute to try to help save the day, and Frankenstein's monster just like could not contain himself, needed to hold the cat, right? It was very realistic. The poor guy didn't know his own strength, and poor cat's being like squished, and he's just like, pretty kitty. I'm surprised I don't see more people talking about this, like in general. You know, I asked a couple of my friends if they've ever heard of this, my friends who enjoy reading, and they said no, they've never heard of this book. So I don't know. It's kind of a cult favorite. No pun intended, but it seems kind of like a cult classic. It was exactly the kind of like Halloween vibey thing that I think so many of us are looking for, you know, like with the occult, and each chapter is a different night in October, and you're just getting like little snippets of like a supernatural, mysterious event going on. I'm so glad I read this, and I'm only disappointed that it took me so long to actually like, number one, discover it exists, and number two, pick it up and finally read it. I know that this is the final book that he wrote before he died, and like, first of all, like, I love that this is what we got as an author's final book. I think this is a fantastic story, and it really has made me want to move up the Books of Amber on my list, because I know so many people love the Books of Amber. It's a classic fantasy, and I do own it, the Chronicles of Amber, but I just haven't gotten to it. But this made me want to move it up on my list. I wish that we got more of these characters, like got to follow them in other years where Halloween falls on the full moon, and see what happened in those other experiences when the openers and the closers were trying to deal with this portal. Kind of crazy things happen on the lead up, because it kind of sounds like things can either be like pretty calm during the month of October when this happens, or like totally off the rails. I think that this one struck a good balance between kind of like a slow buildup, but also, I mean, there's a little murder here and there that you gotta kind of figure out, like, the board is set and the pieces are moving, and now some people are going to be intentionally knocked out of the game. So I thought that this was a good balance between, like, it wasn't like completely insane, but it was enough going on to make me say, what's going to happen next? Is everyone going to make it to the end? Like, what's going to happen when this portal actually, like, people are trying to open it up? So this was definitely a 5-star read for me. This was just so much fun. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. I'm going to be recommending it to literally everyone that wants a Halloween book. This is going to be my recommendation. And I can't wait for next year when I'm going to go through and read a chapter each night to really get that Halloween vibe feeling through the month of October. Because if you could not tell by like my little headband and the stuff I got, and I got my Hello Kitty, right? My Hello Kitty today. Look, I love fall and I love Halloween stuff, and this was exactly everything that I wanted it to be. I understand now why I see this recommended so often in book groups, because it really is, I think, for a lot of people looking for a Halloween read. I don't know that you can find something better than this. If somebody has a really good recommendation for a Halloween book that you liked better than this one, by all means let me know. I'm always on the lookout for a good Halloween story. As of right now, this is going to be my go-to for a recommendation. Have you read A Night in the Lonesome October? Did you really like it? Did you really dislike it? When did you figure out what was going on? Like, was it early in the story? Or, because for me, it was pretty late in the story. I would say the last quarter of the story for sure. I think it wasn't until one of the characters, it might have been Snuff, explicitly says, like, we're trying to, deal with this portal to the Elder Gods. Then that's when I realized, oh, okay, like that's what's gonna happen on Halloween, on October 31st. Okay. Did you figure it out before then? Because I did not figure it out before then, but that was part of the fun for me. It was just, I was along for the ride to see what was going on with his dog and this real weird group of characters. Let me know your thoughts though. I would love to talk to somebody about this book. It's now my mission to get somebody, like one of my friends, to read this book and see if they really loved it as much as I did. Overall, I'm really glad that I chose this for one of my Halloween books because it was exactly what I was looking for. So that's all that I've got for you today with my review of A Night in the Lonesome October. Thank you so much for coming by. I always appreciate it. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.